Greg Walls on the podcast and as a guest of ours. He's been on our show before, and, of course, our local listeners here out of Picayune don't need an introduction, but if you're listening statewide or from across the country, Greg's a guy who was a phenomenal athlete here in Picayune, went on to play football over at TCU and had an awesome career for the Horned Frogs there as well. And Greg, man, Jeff and I both appreciate you taking time for the podcast tonight.
Man, you have no idea, brother. Like I'm nervously excited about talking to you cats again, man. I really am.
Greg, I guess you've known our co-host Jeff longer than you've known me. I think we both consider you a friend. And Jeff and I we were coming on tonight because the state lifted the regulations on some of the COVID-19. So high school football was able to get back in yesterday. Yep. And so we were like, man, we're coming on, but it would just be, I think, a mistake on Jeff and I's part if we didn't address and speak to what's going on in our country. And I really couldn't think of a better person to try to shed some perspective that Jeff and I just honestly cannot provide. So we wanted to have you on and just let you speak to our audience and kind of share your perspective on what you see that is taking place time and time again in our country, and certainly has, I hope, the country's attention at this moment.
Yeah, man. Like I was telling you guys, man, it's first of all, I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to have this conversation with and being able to provide a little bit of insight and understanding. Number two, it's hard, man. It's hard because, like you said at the beginning, we're friends. I mean, Jeff, you and I grew up in the same neighborhood.
That's
we
right.
Literally walked to each other's house. Like you know my mom and my dad by name. I know your folks, so it's not like I'm informing somebody I just met or things of that nature. It's you guys are friends. You know what I mean? And it's imperative that I'm 41 years old, gentlemen, and I realized a few things for the first time just a couple of weeks ago, and it kind of made me sad. So just to paint the picture before you guys start asking questions, I want everybody listening to this to really think about it, and even if you know where I'm going with it, let me finish. Like, don't insert your thought until I finish, right? So I'm going to describe two men to you. I'm just going to describe them based on factual historical evidence, okay? And then I'm gonna end it with something that's gonna show you what I see or what black males see. So let's say you got a guy, a gentleman, graduate from an Ivy League school, beautiful family, 2 daughters, 1 wife, never been divorced, only married at one time, has been well-traveled, speaks a couple of different languages, been all over the world. Oh, and by the way, wrote a couple of books, had a chance to make a difference in not only his hometown, but, in different cities and whatnot, okay? And that gentleman, he wants to run for president. The first thought, I don't have to ask what people would say. The first thought would be, damn, Ivy League, he's smart, beautiful family, he's a family man. Shoot, he's a humanitarian, he's trustworthy. I mean, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he want to run for president? I would vote for him. And then I give you the example of another person. He got caught up in a scandal with a porn star. He's been married a couple of times. He has a few ugly divorces. I know he started a university. I don't know if he ever finished school. He has about 11 bankruptcies. And, he's very aggressive in the way he talks to women. And he will throw out a racial epithet every once in a while. The moment I say that, and then I say he wants to run for president, the first thought is, ain't no way you can be president like that. But let's say I end the first guy with, and he's a black guy. You don't have to say it, but you know the worst thing he can do is run for president. The other guy wins the election. Now, I haven't said anything about policy. I haven't said anything about background. I haven't said anything about belief systems. I just talked about the people that I saw. And if I describe the people that I saw without color, there is no doubt what we think. And I think what I realize is that when people say, I see no color, or all lives matter, or we're all one race, the human race, that is a blindfold to the actuality of America. Do you know why people like fall? People like fall because of the colors. You have to see the color. That way you can appreciate and you can hold accountable the person. That is why we're in this state. Like, I saw myself as black, and I had to live by the rules of this country that are provided to the black man. Everybody else sees no color. So we think the rules are the same. So when I say, sweet, you know, I was driving to El Paso with my homeboy, man, and we got pulled over for driving on the left side after passing the car, and we was doing 76. Well, and you're going to ask, well, what's the speed limit? I'll say it was 75. And then the rational question is, what did he pull you over for? And if I said, because I'm black, that does not sound, that sounds insane. Mm-hmm. It sounds insane because you think rationally. And you know my name. Mm-hmm. There's no way they could pull him over because he didn't do anything. And the moment you embrace the fact that that man was pulled over because he was black, that man was murdered in the street because he was black, that man was hunted down in that neighborhood like a dog because he was black, now we can change the rules because everybody sees the game. That's why I never told y'all a lot of stories of the things that I just dealt with regularly, because those stories are common amongst a lot of your black friends, gentlemen. They really, really are. It's a way of life. And part of it is that I can't speak for everybody. I'm just now realizing that the way I thought it was, it didn't have to be. It didn't have to be, but now we're here, and now everybody can see and hear. And when you see the violence being perpetuated, or when you see no justice for people being murdered by officers of the law or by people in the neighborhood, and they get to go home. That is the bottom line, fellas. And I'm telling you guys that as friends. That's the bottom line. Period. They get to go home, and other people who commit crimes against other people don't. That's why the comparisons are so difficult to deal with. That's why I need you to see color, because I can tell you guys the truth, and most of the people listening, it ain't a secret that Josh Robinson is one of my best friends on the entire planet. That ain't no secret. Everybody from South Mississippi to North Texas knows that, right? Right. His sons are like my nephews. Like, there is nothing I won't do for those kiddos. Now, why would I think in my entire life to have a conversation like this with him? That's my friend. Mm-hmm. That's why it's so hard. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to understand that. It's hard to understand what I'm about to tell you guys. And Sweet, you played ball with me. Jeff, you played ball with me. You guys know. It's not like I'm just saying this. You know what I realized a couple of weeks ago? I got a pass a lot of times because I was one of the literally quote unquote good ones. Now, if you are not a black male, that might mean anything. That might mean a good athlete, a good guy, a good student. But when you're a black male, I know exactly what that means. That means I'm not a troublemaker. I'm a good athlete, and I make good grades, so I'm one of the good ones. You don't have to worry about keeping me in my place. That's a hard truth thing.
So, Greg, when you speak that truth, man, from the other side, like, what do we do, man? Like, where does it get better? Where's the growth at?
This is the growth. This conversation is one, because I don't care what anybody says. Open dialogue and questions, no matter how hard they may be, no matter how frustrating they may sound, you get answers from questions, and that's where you can make change. Because here's what everybody has to also realize. Like, I personally don't have any enemies that I know of, like people that's just out to get me. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I got some really good friends of all races. So it's like when I say that, I mean that to the letter of the law of friendship. And it saddens me to think that somebody out there has enough hate to take my life because I am black for no other reason. That's a hard pill to swallow, so it makes it hard to trust anybody. So this is how we do better. And doing better requires a lot, man. So let me ask you guys a question. Did you guys watch the murder of Mr. Floyd? Did you watch that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. Yes,
sure, I watched it.
Okay, did you watch it? Like, not look at it and turn away. Did you watch the entire video?
I did, Greg, but I can honestly say, because it was somebody that I follow on social media that kind of challenged. They stated it similar to how you said it there. Like, did I see that it was a news story, or did I take time to dig in and watch it? And so I was kind of challenged by that, but not initially, no.
So I want to ask both of you guys this, because this is what I'm trying to get to, and I'm challenging you to just get past your feelings, because us and everybody listening, I know how you felt. You felt rage, and you felt confused, and you felt sad. I know how you felt, but Clay, I'm asking you, and then Jeff, I'm asking you now, what was your first thought? What did you think when you saw that? Not how you felt. What were you thinking?
That it happened again.
Okay. Jeff, what did you think?
Well, I mean, I thought of, why. If he's, saying that he can't breathe or whatever, I mean, just why? Why create that much force when he was on the ground, kind of helpless to begin with? Why keep going with the force that was, my question was just why? Why did the force whatever keep going?
Now, I want you guys to live right there, because what I'm about to tell you is the bottom line, and this is how we change it. You want to know my first thought? It's irrational, and I've said this a few times over the past week. My first thoughts were very irrational. Because your thoughts were rational. It is rational to go, why would a man do that? It's rational to go, man, again, this is happening again. Here's what I thought. He's gonna kill that kid. That MFer just might get away with it. That was my first thought. You never think that. You want to know why? Because you think the justice system is just. And it is. It's just when it's you. It's not the murders. The reason they don't stop is because these men and women in these uniforms and in these neighborhoods are not being brought to justice. So the next thing people say is, well, they got arrested. But that man went home, Clay, after he choked that man to death. He got in his car and went home. He went home. So why would I, as a black male, I'm watching the world watch this man in uniform murder this man? Why would I even one moment think there would be any justice if there never has been? Why would I believe that if I call the police, they're actually going to help me? That's irrational for anybody else to think like that. Because what you said, Jeff, is justice. Why? He should be whatever the law says. Clay, again, how is this happening? That's rational. But you can't speak rationality into irrational actions. What we have to do is recognize it as crazy and what it is. Here is what it is. Look at that video and look in that man's face. He killed that kid for one reason, because he was black. And if you embrace that, we can change it. Because we can, that way the mayor of Petal bites his tongue off before he says anything like that. Because when you can do that and you stand up there as a leader, and if you dismiss him, because this is how we dismiss him. Well, if you can talk, you can breathe. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that. That's crazy. He should be fill in the blank. And nothing happens. But look what's happening now. We saw it. I can't believe you said that. He murdered that man. You need to get out of office. That's how we change it. That's the difference. People are speaking up because they see it. If you want to help me, because we're friends, bro, and I know we are, the way you help is you see and call what you see what it is. We call spades spades. We call strikes strikes. That was murder. And that was murder by an officer of the law, and justice is all people want. Once we get justice, you see all the anarchy. You can look around and see who's doing what. You're not blinded by the narrative anymore. You can see it. Listen, I'm going to tell you guys the truth, because it's easy to go, well, what were you doing? And then look up my background and say, well, you've been arrested before. Yeah, I got arrested in 2009 for a DWI. I did. And I was drunk. Let's call it what it is. I'm grown, I'm drunk. I'm telling you guys now. Now, what you don't know is, I got pulled over. I stuck my hands out the window. I had guns drawn on me. Slammed to the pavement. This is a DWI. Slammed to the ground, wrist turned up, the whole nine. But I was wrong. I shouldn't have been drunk driving. I should have went to jail that night, and I did. But should that night cause think about what I just said. You know, you guys have family, and you never at night have to wonder if your son gonna make it home or your nephew gonna make it home, and because the people who have sworn to protect and serve see them as a threat. Now let's call spades. Tay might be one of the biggest kids you've ever met. So I know he's a threat in the eyes of the officer. He's a kid. He's a big, smart, fun-loving, won't hurt a fly kid. But that narrative don't matter at the end of that night.
Greg, when you talk to your father about this, is it bad or worse what is progress over time at all been made, and somebody like your dad who's seen a lot of life, who's seen a lot of people, who's certainly not afraid of relationships,
right?
Regardless. So, like his perspective. I mean, what does he see, Greg, in some of that?
You know what? That is a tremendous question, man. I'm so damn. That's a great question. Look, I have asked my old man this stuff, and with my dad, and I want you to fact check me to make sure I'm accurate with all my statements when you talk to him. I believe he was in the 9th grade when segregation became integration, right?
Right.
So he literally grew up and lived through the transition from segregation to integration. So he had to fight a lot, and the N-word was common, and white men were really, really cruel. So it's much better. I asked my old man one time, I was like, man, I don't understand how you don't hate white people. Mm-hmm. I asked him straight like that. And he was like, I just don't.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Greg Senior answer right there.
Yeah, but I want you to, because y'all know him, so I'm not just saying this stuff. But you got to realize that he also grew up around people who saw him as Greg. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard it's hard to be rude to everybody when some people are genuinely being nice and kind and actually being your friend. It's just that they're so few and far between. And when you're in the middle of a dog fight, you need dogs that know the fight. So a lot of black people feel isolated when there is no help during the fight. Like, the most dangerous place in America for a black man? The courtroom.
Mm.
Think about what I just said.
Yeah.
The courtroom. So when you're dealing with people like my old man who, it's way better. It's way different. It ain't as many things happening. This stuff been happening for a long time. You go from brutality to harassment to brutality to murder.
Yeah.
And the problem is the injustice in the murder. Nobody's being brought to justice. Because what justice does, it's a deterrent. So let's say the first few officers who got a little excited about their power murdered people in the street, and they are still in jail, locked up, never to be seen again. I guarantee no matter how much you hate me, you love your wife more.
Sure.
And you want to see her again. You love your kids more than you hate me. So you can call me all the names you want, but I made it home that night.
Yeah.
And that's the I need you guys to see, when you see that murder, don't see rationality. See, he killed that man because he was black. And he deserves to go to jail for murder. Not for killing a black man, for murder. And then we change it.
And when you say that, Greg, is that, and I'm asking you this, you've been completely candid like I knew you would be, but is that why Jeff and I may see a peaceful protest that turns into something different than that, to other stages of that, and it may be easier for us to judge what that turns into?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because all you see is the aftermath of what the screen is showing you. But again, if you watch it, you'll see what's actually going on. You'll see people protesting and you'll see people rioting. You won't see protesters rioting. It is a difference. So all you see the destruction and the man beat up in the middle of the street, and oh my God, they shouldn't do that, and they shouldn't. And I am not for any of. I'm a small business owner, man. Sure. You honestly think I'm a fan of people burning? No. and I like all my neighbors that have leases and buildings next to me, I will fight tooth and nail with them. I don't give a damn what color they are. Because we all know each other and we friends and we help each other. That's just the way it is. So when you see that, look and see what you see. Look at the faces that are looting. Look at the faces that are protesting. And look at the faces that are getting tear gassed. And you'll see what's actually there. Again, man. If that's why I don't, you notice I don't talk politics. I don't talk religion. I just talk what I see.
Sure.
So let's say, a fight is going on in your front yard, right? A big fight, a fist fight. Okay? Fight stops. Everybody's hanging out. Order is restored. But the person who antagonized the fight was in the house, comes back out the house with dogs and sticks the dogs on people that are sitting in front of the house. Just to walk across the street and check the mail. Gets the mail, puts it back in the box, and goes back in the house. What would you say? What would you call that person? An instigator, an antagonist.
Sure.
Some of us call him president.
Yeah.
And I don't care what people's policies are. Tell me that didn't happen.
Yeah. No.
That's all
been
I'm saying.
ugly.
So when you look at me and I look at that, why would I for one moment believe justice will be served unless you, Clay, you, Jeff, you go and demand that the mayor tightens up in Pepper? Because I can't do that.
Sure.
That's the difference. And a lot of us grew up with that.
And Greg, as you were talking there, and we were talking before we started recording this, I'm gonna shift gears, but not shift, and so to speak. But you've got a new thing going for you with a podcast, so to speak, and how does that?
Right.
How does that benefit? And I'm gonna ask, but how does that benefit you, where you can come on and now you, as Greg Walls Jr., you have a voice too, as far as the guests you bring on, and have you brought up any of this stuff as far as what's going on in the country in the avenue that you have with the new adventure that you're going into?
Man, thank you for asking. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, last night we had an hour-long show with on this topic, on like what do we do now? Like now, what do we do? What's the next move? So I had a young lady. I had a good friend of mine and one of the few 6A black head baseball coaches on the show, who I've known for 20-something years, and he brings a lot of perspective. He's an economics teacher, so he brings a lot of perspective from the economics foundation of the situation. And then I had a young lady who is actually who was a protester, who was actually out there in Dallas when they started tear gassing and whatnot. So we talked about this topic and their frustrations and how do we get better, or how do we make it better. And I've been using that opportunity to invite people to ask me questions. How do we fix this? What is the real situation? What do we see as black males? Because this has to stop. And I've been getting, so many messages and phone calls and text messages and it makes me super excited in the fact that I'm not crazy, to be honest. Like people actually do see what I see, and we can really make a difference. But it's how we make a difference. It's a fact that, Clay, my words in your voice will make the change. That's a fact. So I use that platform for people to just hear a perspective outside of the normal loud noise rhetoric that you can't do anything about. You know what I don't like about conspiracy theories? You can't do anything about them. It's a theory, so people can refute it all the time. But you know what? When you have the information, it forces the responsibility. And that's why people like theories, because there's no responsibility in the theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of responsibility when you watch a man get murdered and there was no justice, because that man could have been your son. So,
Greg, man, tell us where to find the show, Greg, and man,
okay.
There's no way we can thank you for the perspective you've added tonight. We need to continue. We both sat offline, and Jeff and I talked about this earlier today. I mean, we've been doing this for a little while now, and we've had some prominent guests on, but this is the most nervous, and I know you really well. This is the most nervous I've been before one of these, because this is a hard topic to talk about, but man, you've added so much perspective. And so tell our listeners where they can find the show.